Can you imagine having 3 months off to cruise? Just at your own pace, on your own terms, surfing if and when there's waves. And I'm not talking about retirement, I'm talking about in the throes of adulthood. I can hardly imagine the luxury of that much time. The time away from work and the ritual of my responsibilities. But that was the exact plan, the loose plan of today's guest to ride her bicycle on a surf trip from the south tip of New Zealand to the very north tip, as documented in Needessentials' latest film, Spaces in Between. And now you're thinking, oh, well, of course, she's a pro surfer. That's how she has 3 months to sojourn. But she's not. She works a regular job, tries to find time to surf, just like you and I. But the only difference between Johanna Brebner and you or me is that she hasn't fallen into the modern trap of just presuming that busyness means progress. She's prioritized a slower pace in life and a willingness to detour in order to explore a curiosity. And that's precisely why I wanted to chat with Johanna Brebner today. That and, of course, to ask her about her love of surf mats, which is a new interest of mine. But before we do, my work here on Surf Splendor is made possible with support from the Surfrider Foundation, VAER Watches, and REALWatersports. Surfrider.org is where you go to become a member, participate in water testing at your local beach, maybe learn how to plant an ocean-friendly garden at your home, and so much more. For 41 years, they've been fighting for healthier oceans, and they could use your support. So go to surfrider.org. VAER Watches makes ocean-ready, American-assembled timepieces that are as beautiful as they are durable. I'll save you 15% at vaerwatches.com/surfsplendor. And then RealWatersports.com is your one-stop retail shop for anything that you might need for any water sport, a beach day, lake excursion, and beyond, with their 1,500 surfboard inventory that they can ship anywhere in the world for one low flat fee. Check it all out at RealWatersports.com. Okay, Johanna's film, Spaces in Between, debuted on needessentials.com for 3 days, which is when we recorded this. It's now available for free on YouTube. So I caught Johanna as the film was just starting to be seen and receive the very scary public's feedback, and that is where we're going to enter today's conversation. My name is David Scales for Surf Splendor, and I really hope that you enjoy my chat with Johanna Brebner.
Surf Splendor.
Glad to hear it. I was curious, YouTube can be, or the YouTube comments section can be a little bit dicey.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I went, what's that?
I was going to say, so far there's 2 comments and they're both good, so we're sweet.
Nice. I love to
One's
hear
from my
it.
dad.
I loved seeing him in the film. He's so sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a really special moment, meeting him at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, that was really cool. I'm glad they showed him.
Yeah.
Let's kind of start at the beginning. Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in this beautiful little coastal town, Ohope Beach. So it's in the North Island of New Zealand. And it's a tiny little town. It's quiet. I went to a little high school there, and growing up surfing there as well, I think I was like one of the only girls in the water. It was like me and mum. So it was a very quiet little rural New Zealand town, but beautiful place. Like, loved growing up there.
What were your parents doing there?
Mum and dad, they both were born and bred, and they've just lived there their whole lives, and they love it to bits. That's their happy place. They'll be there forever. So
Were they the first generation of surfers in the family?
yes, yeah, in the family,
Okay.
yep, on both sides,
Cool.
yeah.
Very cool. When did you start surfing?
So I started when I was 5. It was quite inevitable because mum and dad are absolute surf frothers, and so they had us 3. I was the youngest of 3, and so we would go down on the weekends and just surf our brains out. There was a little surf club just down in front of our house, so we'd go and borrow the little foam surfboards and have our big beach days. So yeah, 5.
That's a great way to grow up.
Yeah, I was pretty lucky.
I know in the film you talk about leaving the small town when you were 17, when you graduated high school, headed off to Australia.
Mm.
What was behind that decision?
It was interesting. I had actually been accepted into university down in Otago in the South Island. And at the last kind of week, I decided, I was like, I don't actually know if I want to go and do that. But then being from such a small town, I was like, I don't want to just stay here while everyone
Yeah.
else goes off to uni. So I'd actually seen a picture of Noosa in a surf magazine, like when I was young. And I was like, oh, that looks pretty nice. Like, I'll just go on my gap year and head over to Oz and see what's happening over there. So, yeah, that was kind of how I ended up over here. And now 12 years later.
What what were you going to study at school?
Back then I was down to study PE teaching because
Oh,
I
okay.
was loved working with kids and I was like PE was one of my favorite subjects. But in hindsight, looking back, I'm really glad I didn't do that.
What did you end up after that one gap? I know you stayed in Australia, but after the gap year, did you go back to school?
I did. So I've done my diploma in psychology and then I'm currently just like working my way through my bachelor's, but doing it very, very slowly. I'm kind of working it around my life instead of the other way around. So just slowly chipping away at that. Yeah.
What are your greatest professional ambitions? What do you want to do?
I would love to finish my degree and then work in the psychology field. I'm really drawn to that whole side of things and mental health and the mind. And it's been a passion since I was pretty young. So yeah, just chipping away at that. And I kind of just have this deep feeling that it's going to unfold really nicely as I go about it. And it's, for me personally, it's nice to go slowly with it and actually enjoy the process and retain things and not be in a frantic cramming it all in and going a million miles an hour. Like I just don't function very well that way. So yeah.
I think, I mean, so many people that go to university straight out of high school, um, they pick a major because they're forced to. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
anybody actually knows what they want to do, you
Yeah.
know? And so, yeah, you do cram to retain the information just for the test to get through it. But at the
Yeah.
end of the 4 years, I think the vast majority of people actually don't end up using the degree.
Yeah. It's amazing. Like I look back and I'm so thankful now that I've had that space, just having like that breathing room to actually figure out what I'm interested in, what I'm naturally gifted at as well. Because now looking back, if I was a PE teacher, like sure, it would have been great and I probably would have been good at what I'd done, but it's not like my deep passion at
Yeah.
all. And then whereas psychology really like lights me up and I feel like I can have like a good purpose and impact and help people too. So I'm super thankful that I actually took that space because there is so much pressure to finish school and go get a degree. You know, there's so much like pressure from society. And yeah, there's definitely times when people were probably wondering what on earth I was doing floating around in Australia surfing. But yeah, I'm really glad with the way it's panned out.
The reason I'm asking you about it, is because I think it resonates with a lot of people. Like, I think a lot of young people might be feeling that way, but they don't know it's okay to take your time.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think it's, you know, especially if you're working or if you have creative interests and that's not necessarily being cultivated or nurtured
Hmm.
because you're trying to do what your parents asked you to do or do what society wants you to do. I think it's wise and it's helpful to hear other people talk about their own process of figuring it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And also just like on a side note as to why I've decided to do things at such a slow pace is like I am quite a creative person. Like I've just started learning piano. I love like art and drawing. And surfing's obviously like a creative outlet. And for me, those are like really high priority on my list of like having a balanced lifestyle. And so by chipping away at the study slowly, it means that I have time and space to enjoy my creative pursuits. And overall, that just makes me show up as like a better person, better in my study, better all around. And so for me, that's just like, it's worth it to take a few more years and just actually have a more balanced lifestyle throughout.
Did your parents have any expectations or ambitions for you professionally?
Now, I was really lucky. Mum and dad have been really supportive of how I've chosen to live my life and the directions that I've gone. Well, from what I've seen anyway, I'm sure there were probably conversations back at home, but I've been really lucky like that. Like I've had their full support, and I think they just trust that it will work out and I'll figure out my way. So yeah,
That's helpful.
yeah, very helpful.
um, I just want one more I would like to know more about what your interest is in mental health or what space you would ultimately want to work in, do you think?
Yeah, I guess so. Like, I already work in mental health. I do support work, so I work one-on-one with clients who are experiencing mental health issues. So it's quite neat. Even though I haven't finished my studies, I'm in that field. And for me personally, I have like a real natural ability of working alongside people, and it brings like it's just amazing to work alongside someone who is having struggles and just working with them and seeing the progress and just like healing and seeing life through a new lens, just through little like things that are implemented. It just, yeah, it feels like it's a space that I find a lot of purpose in. And it lights me up. I love watching people's lives improve. So, yeah.
Is is it therapy, like a support role in therapy?
Support work, not yet, obviously, because I'm not qualified as a therapist. It's more so just so you're working alongside them to help them with like everyday goals, help them get into like the workforce or like setting them up with the right therapist. So you're kind of like the in between person. And then
Gotcha.
sometimes it just naturally is like talk therapy as well, but obviously not on a professional scale. So, yeah.
Gotcha. I too studied psychology. I got my
Oh,
bachelor's
did
in
you?
psychology. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I kind of did a similar, different version of your story. But
Yeah.
when I finished the bachelor's degree, my parents were willing to pay to go to grad school, but I just
Yeah.
didn't really have the drive at that time. And I also didn't know what I would want to do professionally with the degree. I just
Yeah.
had I was oriented similarly to you and I was interested in
Yeah.
it. Um, so I took a year off and I never ended up going back. I just started working and I really was gratified by work. And
Yeah.
so
What were you
never looked,
doing for work?
well, I worked in the wine industry actually.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So I was really into food and wine and I still am.
Yeah.
And now I make a living podcasting, believe it or not, which is
Fantastic. It's
actually
worked
not,
out well.
well, it's also adjacent to therapy in a certain
Yeah.
way, to talk therapy, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
But in my head, I always had the fantasy that I would go back for the graduate degree. And when I realized that I might not use it to make a living, I still maintained the fantasy of just wanting to go get the schooling, like on my own
Yeah.
terms.
Yeah.
And so now life is a little too busy to do it, but I do still think like in retirement, maybe just,
Epic. Yeah.
well, because I enjoy the learning process.
Yeah.
And I think especially as you get older, it's important to keep learning new things and to train yourself
Absolutely.
on new things. So
And
I may still do it.
I feel like with psychology too, it's one of those things that even if you aren't going to use it in the workplace, it is such a beneficial subject to learn about because it's just learning how you and everyone else shows up in the world. Like yeah, it's not, there's no time wasted with it. So,
That's how I felt too. And
yeah.
my dad was kind of adamant, like, you know, if you don't know what you want to do, just get an MBA because the
Yeah.
MBA will be versatile and you can kind of take it anywhere. And I had the same thought that you had, which is like, well, psychology I could take anywhere with me. Now I own my own business. Turns out my dad was probably right, and the MBA would have helped me.
Nothing
I
like a
never
bit of
told him he
hindsight.
was right, but he was probably right.
We'll have to see who's going to finish their degree first, David.
We might be doing it at the same time.
We might graduate at the same time. That's
Um,
great.
yeah, and honestly, I don't think that I technically use anything that I learned from school, like in my day-to-day life or even in this work.
Yeah.
But me being oriented that way to be interested in those things to get the degree, I think serves me well in this career, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's great to know. I love it.
Yeah. Um, well, let's talk about the film itself or the trip itself. What was the impetus for this trip that the film documents?
Yeah. So the film, it was such a beautiful homecoming. Like, I left when I was 17, and so I didn't travel much of the country at all. Like I got my license when I was like 16, and then I moved overseas. So yeah, the reason behind the trip, it was like it had been on the cards for many years of like, I want to go back and do like a long form travel through my home country and just like really see and feel it all. And the idea for the bike riding was, I feel like as surfers, we're always chasing waves in our vehicles, in our cars. And, I'd just done it for years and I wanted to do something a little different. I'd love to sail, but that's obviously something you don't want to just like throw yourself straight into, especially around New Zealand. And so I was kind of like sitting on it for a while and I was like, you know what? I was like, I know how to ride a bike. And New Zealand is like the perfect length where it's a good adventure, but it's really doable. Like you can do it in a few months. It's not going to take you 6 months or a year. Um, and so I threw the idea out to needessentials and they straight away were just like, yep, sounds great. Let's go. So I think the turnaround time from when I pitched the idea to actually going was like 5 weeks, and it was over Christmas as well. So the preparation period was very minimal, and it was honestly, it's probably like 2 to 3 weeks. So yeah, but it was a really rich kind of homecoming. I'd been wanting to get back there for a long time. So yeah.
How much experience did you have cycling?
None. Or like I'd bike to school as a kid when I was like super young. Like it was comical, David. I didn't even know about like different frame sizes or like anything. I purchased a bike off Marketplace, which I think is like Craigslist for you guys, for $50, and it was too small for me, and that's what I did my like 5 training rides on. So
How long were your training rides?
I did. The first one was like 35K, and then the next I did 50, and then a 75, and then 100. Because I was like, if I can just do 100K, I'm good. Like, just like that mental kind of thing. So,
Um, so when you come up with a concept and you're mapping out the trip, how many kilometers were going to be covered and how much time did you allocate for it, or did you expect that it would take?
so I thought it would take 2 months, and it took 3, just with weather filming as well. That adds like a whole other layer. Weather's a big one because if it's like a howling headwind or raining, then you're just kind of stationary. So it ended up taking just under 3 months, and it was 2,300 Ks all up. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Um, what do you think was, well, back to the years that you spent in Australia prior to this homecoming, did you do much traveling through Australia?
Not super extensively, like down the East Coast. Like I'd been down to Vico and um, like just all along the East Coast, I traveled quite a lot, but I never went over West or like through the desert until just recently. So yeah, all of my travel here was just very surf orientated.
So I'm curious where the appetite came to do such a big trip. Was there an inciting incident or something going on in your life or something that had led up to this appetite to take 2 or 3 months to go on a journey?
Oh, honestly, David, I love adventure, and I think it was the first time where I just had, when everything just lines up and I could do it with work. I was like, I can actually disappear for 3 months, and it wasn't affecting anything else. And it's the best way to travel. I was like, it's like the only way I want to travel now. It's like just such a special way to actually get to know a place on a deeper level, instead of just kind of shooting in there for a week or two and kind of extracting, getting your surf fix and then leaving again. Having like those few months, it just opens up like the space to really get to know places deeply. But yeah, I guess I've just always had a really adventurous spirit. Like I was talking to my mum about it, and she was like, "Oh, ever since you're a toddler, you were just like off on little adventures." And yeah, it's just always been in me. So it was nice to actually do it.
I mean, to be able to take the time off work would be a stop point for most people.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was just really lucky. I had some flexibility there. So yeah.
Um, so you said you mentioned the idea to need essentials for a film. Did you have a pre-existing relationship with them, and how did you connect with them?
Yeah. So I had been with Need since 2019, I think, 7 years. And the way that all unfolded was it was so natural. It was lovely. It was when I was living up in Noosa, and we had this beautiful swell in October, and all the banks were just lovely, and I was surfing my brains out. And I remember looking through the trees when I was like walking out and seeing this guy on his backhand surfing. And I don't know if you've ever had it in life before, but I just felt like this real strong draw. And I was like, oh, and bumped into him later. And it was Drew McPherson, lovely guy, really talented surfer. And we ended up just bumping into each other for like a week and with that swell. And then when he was about to leave, he said, "Hey, like my friend's got a wetsuit company. Would you be interested in testing some of the women's wetties?" And I just went, "Yep, sounds awesome." So that's how that all unfolded. Like it just happened really naturally. And the support's been amazing. And we made a couple of kind of short films, one in Iceland and one in Tassie. And then obviously like COVID kind of happened and chopped out a big chunk of time there. So this was like our first feature length film, and they had kind of just been like, if you get an idea, just send it through and we'll go from there. So yeah, that's how it all unfolded.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I stayed at Ryan's house in Yamba one time, and Drew was staying in the back house,
Oh,
uh,
epic. Yeah.
but I never met him. Like,
Oh
I was,
no.
I know. I think he had gone on a trip. I want to say he went to like, he was planning to be there when I was there. And then I think
Yeah.
at the last minute, he maybe went to Tasmania or something.
Yeah, he's living down there now, I think. So yeah.
Okay. Maybe I think that's what it was. It was a while. It was like 2018, probably. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was a
Yeah.
long time ago now.
Yeah. No,
But
he's a wonderful guy. And so that's how I was kind of linked into that whole world. So
yeah. Um, so in regard to preparing for the film or for the trip itself, how much did you underestimate the requirements? Because it seems, I mean, it'd be nice to think like if you're relatively fit, you can go on a 2,000-kilometer bike journey. In hindsight, were you woefully underprepared?
well, okay, here was my logic behind my very limited preparation fitness wise. But when you're doing a trip of that scale, it's like you're almost just going to get your fitness on the road. Like I mean, you can, some people would probably prep a lot more than me, but it was just the reality of it. I kind of had to leave in Feb because of weather, because it was going to get too cold. So it was kind of just, it was the only time to do it unless we wanted to push it back to the end of the year. And so, yeah, I kind of was just like, it's one of those things where you don't have to bike 1,000,000 kilometers a day to begin with. You know, you can just bike until your body tells you to stop and then work your fitness up. I think people can get quite in their heads about having to like click over 100 Ks a day or something like that. But when you're out there for a few months, you just naturally like build your fitness as you go. But in saying that, the first like week of hills, I was like pushing my bike because I couldn't ride it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was very humbling.
Well, the benefit of not having like a specific end date and having to get back to work or catch a flight home, I think allows you to do that.
Yeah, there was no like significant pressure. You could
Yeah.
kind of just let it unfold as it naturally needed to. So, I mean, I am pretty lucky. I do have like a pretty good baseline level of fitness, and I
Yeah.
really like, I trust my body and know that I'm pretty capable. So I wasn't too worried about it. And I feel like within a couple of weeks, like kind of found my groove. So,
What'd you pack? What did you bring for the trip?
okay. So I was really impressed with how I packed, but somehow still managed to have so much stuff. So, because I had like camera gear, laptop, like all the electronic side of like when you're filming, you have to carry that stuff. So that took up quite a lot of room. And then I had like 2 sets of biking clothes, had like wet weather gear, like puffer jacket, like warm weather stuff. And then I had a set of like camp clothes and then wetsuit, board, mat, and that was about it. Like a sarong, and then obviously you're carrying all your food and water as well.
One wetsuit, one board.
Yeah, yeah. It
Amazing.
was a risky one with the wetsuit, but so I started from the south and went north, whereas most people will go north to south. But just because of the timing, I was like, all right, we start bottom of the South Island in Feb. It's still hopefully going to be warm enough to wear a 3-2. And then as you work your way up, the water temperatures are warmer. So I was very lucky. It actually worked a treat. And I think there was only one surf where I was like too cold in the 3-2. So
Okay.
yeah.
And obviously, you only need food and water for short stints, right? Because you can refuel along the way.
Yeah. New Zealand's amazing like that. Like there's so many little towns placed like perfectly for doing the long form travel. So you just carry food for like a day or two.
Um, Pull back the curtain on the camera crew a little bit in the filming production. Did you have people with you the entire time?
So out of the 3 months, I reckon probably 2 weeks out of that I was on my own. And
Okay.
then the rest, so I had good friend Cameron Haylock. He filmed like the first 3 weeks of the South Island, and then Milo Inglis filmed the remainder of the trip. And then my good friend Hani Vale, she came in kind of halfway through for like a month. So yeah, I mean, people think that I was on my own heaps, but like the reality of like filming these movies is like you're never really alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're
It
always
looks
with
like you're
people.
alone.
Yeah, yeah.
Who is Hani? Tell me more.
Hani is such an amazing human. So she grew up in Tassie, and I think she's living down in South Oz now. And she was just so good to share some of that trip with. Like we had never met prior to it. So that's a good way to get to know someone pretty quick, is
Yeah.
do a bike trip with them. But she's such a gifted like water woman, like surfing with her at some of these breaks. I'm like, she is so dialed in. She shaped her own board, which she brought along, like, which is just amazing to see. Like that stuff just lights me up. So yeah, she was very, very good to share that trip with.
Yeah, she surfs great. And that board
Yeah,
looked incredible.
yeah. And she is like, the waves we got didn't really show it, but she is like one of the most amazing tube riders. Like she is so gifted. Yeah.
She got a couple. I remember she got
Oh, she
one
did. Yeah,
on
yeah.
a really big day too. She got a really good one, I remember.
Yeah. Yeah. No, she charges. She's yeah.
Um, so in regard to the filming, was there, considering that they're not filming with you 24/7, was there anything, uh, stories that are worth sharing that were missed, that were not documented on camera?
Oh. Well, it's funny because I had my cameras on me. So I kind of documented all those little in between moments when Milo and Cam went around. I think we covered most things. I mean, I had like those beautiful little interactions with people along the way. Um, but there was nothing too big or wild that was missed. I feel like the film kind of captures it all pretty honestly.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Who wrote the script?
I did.
Well done.
Thank you. It was the first time ever doing something like that. So it was a real kind of out of my comfort zone thing. So obviously I just like drafted it up and then worked alongside like Ryan and a few other people to give feedback and kind of help it take its shape. But yeah.
Um, the music is decidedly different than some of the other Need Essential films. Um, did you have a say in the soundtrack?
Yeah. Yeah. Like all that, most of that music are like all my favorite tracks. It was amazing. Kind of like put together a playlist and sent it off. And usually, like, you're going to get a few songs from it, but like pretty much all the artists gave the green light. We were like blown away. So yeah, I love the soundtrack so much. I just think it's got such a such a unique kind of feel compared to the other films. And then blending like those artists alongside Headland, because we've still got Headland's music in there
Yeah.
as well. I feel like it is such a beautiful balance. Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely a through line with the other Need Essentials films.
Mm.
And but like with certainly in the structure of the film where it's like the protagonist or the lead character is narrating the thing, it's structured similarly, but there's also a unique thumbprint to the film. And the music,
Yeah.
like I said, is definitely different. So I presumed it was your own selection. And it seemed like you would have been the one to write the script because obviously it's documenting your own journey, but it was very professionally done. And then it made me wonder, I've never asked Torrin if he was writing his own scripts or if they're being punched up by somebody because they're really professional, you know?
Yeah. Oh, thank you. That's so lovely to hear because, like, I really do enjoy writing, and I got the opportunity to write some little diary entries for Need Essentials on their like newsletters while I was on the road, and really enjoyed that process. So to have the opportunity to also kind of draft up the script, I loved it. Like, it was a really happy little space for me to, I guess, just express creatively through a different way. But thank you. That's good. It came across professional.
Yeah, well, uh, like a well-written story, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, you're welcome. um, did Was there anything that you learned about your home, um, New Zealand, that you did not appreciate by the time you had originally left?
Yeah, I think I was reminded just really deeply of how beautiful the people are over there, how like welcoming and open and down to earth Kiwis are. Like, they are just great humans. Like, I always knew that, but I think living overseas and then like going back home and just experiencing that so firsthand for like a few months, like the amount of people that took us in and like showed us different, even just different roads to bike down that are safer, or like taking us to surf spots, feeding us. Like, it was just like the biggest breath of fresh air, when you get to see that side of humanity. And just, yeah, Kiwis are just amazing people. So that was like a really nice reminder.
Were you connecting with people that uh, you knew or that you reached out to in advance?
It was a little mix of both. Like, we had people
Okay.
reach out to us as well, and then obviously just on the road when you bump into strangers and then they soon become friends. So yeah, it was a mix of all of that.
Were you camping each night?
Yeah, yeah. So most of the time I'd book into a campground because I needed to use a washing machine. That was a big thing to keep hygienic. So I would most of the time book into campgrounds, and then sometimes we'd be staying at people's places, and then a couple of times we splurged on an Airbnb when it had been like raining and a bit dire for a while. So yeah. And then a
Got
few free camping as well.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Um, it seems like doing an exhaustive cycling trip might conflict with the goal of going on a surf trip. How did you organize how did you organize your surfs? And was Need as a company like insistent that there had to be surfing in the film?
Well, yeah, essentially we were making a surf film. So it was quite funny because like a few people did make that comment before I went, and they're like, "What are you doing? Like, New Zealand's hard enough to get waves sometimes, like in a car. Like, you're
Yeah.
going to get skunked." And I was kind of, I don't know, I felt really peaceful about the whole thing from day dot. And my thinking was like, if I'm going to be cycling along coastlines for 3 months, like, surely at some point everything will align. But we were really lucky. Like, I mean, because everything's just slowed down. Like I stopped looking at long range forecasts like further than a week because I was like, I'm just where I am and I can only go as fast as I can. And it was actually so freeing. Like it was so freeing not to have that like pre-swell panic and be chasing waves. Like it actually did wonders for my relationship with surfing. And so having that, we had spots in mind that we wanted to surf. Obviously, there were certain waves where I was like, I'd love to get those. And so we actually managed to line like, yeah, all three of them up. And somehow, like, at each spot, the locals were all like, oh, this is like the best it gets, or it's a really nice day. So I don't know if it's just beginner's luck, but we managed. So,
Well, good. Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, I wouldn't be opposed to editing in footage from good day, good days elsewhere or something like that if
Yeah,
you
yeah.
needed to, just to round out the film.
Yeah.
But good on you if you actually scored on the trip. It's
Yeah,
even
like,
better.
and it was one of the things, like, I really wanted to tell the story and the journey honestly,
Yeah,
and, like, I was like, even if we don't get 6-foot perfect tubing waves, I was like, I would just want it to be, like, a pretty honest reflection of what doing these trips are like, and sometimes you don't get amazing waves all the time, but we managed to get, like, fun waves, and I feel like it was just enough to get it through as a surf film, so,
totally. Yeah, no, you
yeah.
guys got good waves. Um, you only brought one surfboard. What did you bring?
Yeah. So this was like the hardest decision. Like if you sit down and you have to choose a one board quiver, I sat on this for so long and I think if I had more time leading up to the trip, I would have got something made probably like in the 6'6" range and like maybe like a single fin or a 20, just like something all round and versatile. But I took my 5'6" like fish shaped by Adrian Knott from Aaron Surfboards, and I chose that because it was like the only board I owned for a few years. So it's like an old friend, and I know it really well. And the waves that I wanted to ride were like point breaks or, like suited, like a fish suited them. And because we were filming as well, I was like, I just want to ride something that I'm super comfortable on, that I know like the back of my hand. And yeah, it actually turned out to be a good option. Like I wouldn't usually recommend taking a one board quiver as like a keelfin fish, but it worked out really well.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Yeah.
I also think it's a good reminder that one is enough, like one
Yeah.
board is enough. I think it's if you had more time, you can easily overthink it, and I don't know that you would land on a better solution.
Yeah.
Or on trips, when I have the ability, I do bring 3 boards, and
Yeah.
it's like it's a little bit overkill. I like the idea of simplifying and just going
Yeah.
with one board.
Because sometimes I feel like when you've got multiple boards, you almost have like option paralysis. And like when
Totally.
you've just got one board, you just, no matter what the conditions are like, you're like, oh, I'll just take it out. And sometimes it can be surprising, like how well a board will go in conditions that perhaps you might have just ridden off without even trying them in. So
100%. Yeah, you
yeah,
know
yeah,
who kind of informed me of that or brought it to my mind was Ryan Scanlon,
yeah,
like, years ago, and I don't know if he still does it, but years ago, he told me that he's like I think he was riding like a 6 something single fin, like, it looked
yeah.
like it was from the '70s.
One board
Mm.
quiver. He's still the same.
Is he? Okay, and the
Yeah.
one board, though, was, like, not the choice that I would have made,
Yeah.
and I was like, "What if the waves are only 1 foot?" He goes, "Yeah, that board's great for that." Like,
Yeah.
what if they're 8 feet? He's like, "It
Yeah.
works great in 8 feet." I was like, "Wow, you really got it all
Yes.
figured out."
Yeah, seriously. And it's kinda it is really surprising, like, how well certain boards will go in, like, a variety of conditions that, like, just from the outside, you'd usually write off because 'cause you're like, "Oh, no, like, it won't be any good." But then when you just take it out and, like I think it's great. I think everyone should have to, like, have a one-board quiver for, like, a small like, time in their life.
And if you do have to do that, you will choose a board that is probably better suited for your own surfing
Yeah,
anyways.
yeah.
You know what I mean? It won't be a pointy thruster, basically.
No, no. What would you take if you could only have one board?
Um, The answer changes depending on when you would ask me, but
Yeah. For right now.
yeah, Torn Martin turned me on to this Simon Jones
Yeah.
stuff. And so I've got one. Actually, that's not it. It's a 6'9".
Yeah.
I think it's a Fiji is the model. It's a channel bottom twin fin. And I really did ride that almost exclusively for probably 2 years.
Oh, amazing.
And it's laminated so thick, and it's like a triple stringer. There's almost no heel dents in it. Like
That's amazing.
It's still in pristine condition.
That is so good.
Yeah. And so I think that honestly, and it might have been after I had that conversation with Ryan, actually, that it kind of enlightened me to it, to where I was like, you know what, this board does actually work in 1 foot, and it absolutely holds in like overhead juicy surf.
Yeah.
And so that's probably the one board Quiver for me.
Love it. Good stuff.
And I like the twin fin too. Twin fin's versatile with the channel bottoms.
Yeah, they're so versatile. Like, I also took my surf mat as well, because I was like, in my head, I was like, if there's anything that I can't ride on the fish, the surf mat that is also great in like all conditions. So
I know our mutual friend Jack introduced us via email, but you know who actually months prior told me that I should interview you?
Was it Graeme?
It was.
Oh, stop it. He's the best.
So Graeme Webster, right? Is it GMATs? Is that
GMATs, yeah.
So GMATs, the mat that you were riding was from Graeme, which I love to see. Actually, I think I might have a video that I should play.
Oh, yes.
Let me see where this video is. I'll play it while we talk. If you feel a need to narrate, you can narrate, but I have questions too. So as it relates to Graeme, actually first, let's just start with what are the virtues of riding a mat? And when we say mat, by the way, for listeners, it's like an inflatable raft basically, but it's a 3.5 foot long mat essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're made out of like different thicknesses of nylon. So you can, there's so much to them. They're so dynamic once you start getting into them. But essentially they're it's a nylon surf mat, and you inflate them however much you like. It's quite the big debate on inflation. And they are like hands down the funnest surf craft I have ever like owned or been on. Like the amount of pure joy you can get from being on like a ankle high wave. Oh, look at that. It's so good. And do you know what I love the most as well is that it looks like absolutely nothing to the untrained eye. Like if you're just walking along the beach and you see someone on a mat, you're like, oh yeah, like they're just going straight on a wave. But when you're actually out there on the mat, it's the best thing in the world. Like the speed you can get from them is like second to none. It's just, so much fun.
So to the untrained eye, they would look at that and go, how's it different than a bodyboard?
Yeah.
So
for sure.
what are the virtues of it, and how is it different?
So it's different because it's like a malleable surface. So while you're on the wave riding, through like shifting your weight and like air pressure, you can actually change like the rocker and the rail while you're riding a wave, which is like a pretty unique feeling to get in like within like surfing and wave riding. Like I've never had anything like that. So I guess if you're comparing it to like a boogie board, they're obviously like a stiff surface that don't have that malleable element to them as much as a surf mat.
Got it.
Yeah.
That drop on that wave, by the way, was amazing.
Thank you.
that was such that like shows how complicated it is and how difficult it is.
Yeah, you can just see like obviously like pulling up on that outside rail, and that's pushing all the air into the inside one, which then holds it on drops like that. Like, yeah, they're just the best. And you'll be like, the thing that like really before I started riding them, this was when I was living at Noosa, and Matt Cudahy and Harrison Roach had them out at Tea Tree, and I remember like watching them being like, what are they riding? And they were just like giggling like schoolgirls and just like hooting, and they're very talented like surfers, and to see them having that much like pure fun, I was like, oh, there's definitely something in this, and that kind of like got my interest.
Well, it's not easy, and you're riding them really, really well, so it's really
It
impressive.
it took a while.
That clip of Derek, I think, shows a lot of what you were talking about there, seeing how his hands are making those adjustments.
Yeah.
Who's the best that you've ever seen riding one?
Oh, you'd have to say George Greeno. He's just,
I yeah.
yeah. Yeah, hands down. You watch like the old footage of him and the way that he positions himself on the wave and on the mats. It's seamless and flawless. And yeah, I feel like, yeah, he's hands down the best I've seen for sure.
Um, Considering that you're riding a G mat, I presume that's for a reason. Are all mats created equally?
No, no, not at all. I mean, you can just go and get like the little like red back mats and like the ones that are just stocked in like, I don't know, little surf shops and stuff. And, some of them are like mass produced overseas. All of GMAT's, all of Graham's, hand built by him. A lot of labor intensive love there. And he does the custom ones as well, which is great. So you get them made to your size and weight and what waves you're going to be riding. So yeah, I personally love his mats, feel amazing. So
And how durable are they? Have you gone through a number of them?
no, I personally haven't. I look after my ones really well, and I know people can go through them if you're surfing super heavy waves and maybe taking like crazy drops all the time, but maybe I'm not there yet in my mat career.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine, no, they're super durable. Mine have all lasted really well. So,
Do you see mine back here?
oh, have you got one? Oh, stop it! Oh, no way! What have you got? Is that one of Graham's?
No, it's not. It's there's a guy in Florida. I think he's in Florida in the
Yeah.
US, Nebula Surfcraft.
Yep,
He
I've
makes
heard of
so
them.
he makes
Yeah,
surfboards as well,
yeah.
but then he's doing mats. And I don't know who he learned from, but he's got all the tooling and whatever it requires. Like they're really, really well made.
Fantastic. How have you found it?
Challenging.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
looks so much easier than it is.
It's funny, isn't it? You like watch people riding, you're like, oh, this will be a walk in the park. And like my first time I tried riding one, I was so humbled. I couldn't even catch a wave. Like
I know.
it'd just fold under me. And I was like, what?
Yeah, the swim fins are essential. I
Yeah.
saw, obviously, I think Ari got a wave in that clip where he didn't have fins on, and I'm like, "What?"
Yeah,
I don't
like
know how
him
he did.
and Dave ride them without fins, and I don't know how. I yeah, I definitely rely on having good swim fins.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to paddle it, I feel. Like, I
Yeah,
need to hold on to it,
yeah,
basically.
yeah,
So I haven't got it mastered yet or even, like, sorted out really, but I think the problem is I mainly have beach breaks
yeah,
around here,
yeah,
and so I need a point break,
yeah.
essentially.
Point breaks are very handy when learning.
I'm, I've had fun on it. Like I do get
Yeah,
waves on it, but I don't feel like I'm able to manage the energy of the
yeah,
wave. Like if the wave is pushing me, then I'm flying on the thing, and if it's not,
yeah,
I don't know how to kind of manage it.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but I'm going to Chicama, Peru in about a month, and I'm going to bring it
Oh,
with me.
perfect. Amazing. Oh, well,
I
I
think
hope you just get the longest wave of your life.
I will. I will, no doubt, even on a surfboard. But the wave also, the pacing can go from like it kind of runs at points, but it's not straight up and down. It's got kind of
Yeah,
a slopey
yeah,
angle on the wave. So I feel like the mat's perfect because it can kind of run with those sections. And then when
yeah.
it goes into the flat sections, you can still make the adjustment back into the whitewash and keep it
It'll
going.
be perfect for that. I look forward to seeing a video of you on the mat.
Yeah, I'll try to get some footage.
Yes.
While we're educating the listeners about mats, you mentioned how much you should or shouldn't inflate. Mine is way too inflated right now. Yours looks super underinflated when you're walking on the beach with it.
I just find having less air in there means that there's more space to maneuver it around when you're on the wave and to like, yeah, just be able to move the air through the mat to where you want it to be. But then when you've got more air in the mat, especially if you're starting out, it's going to feel way more stable, which personal preference some people really like. So it's just a personal preference thing. But yeah, I enjoy kind of playing around with that low inflation. It's quite fun.
Ultimately, the more air allows you to catch the wave easier, essentially. But
You,
once you're on the wave,
do you know what?
what?
You'd think that would be it, but I've found it's almost easier to catch waves with less air in it. I don't know how it works, but just from being
Okay,
out there, yeah. I have
cool.
nothing to
I'm gonna
back
let
it
out
up
some
but
air.
personal experience. So
How does George ride his?
I've never actually ridden with him, but it looks like he runs pretty
Oh,
low
okay.
inflation as well. They say like the
Okay.
happy medium is like being able to like bend it to a 90-degree angle, and that's like a happy medium for inflation. So yeah.
Okay, cool. I will deflate. um, Kind of wrapping up the conversation about the film itself. I suppose not everybody is equipped to ride a bike 2,300 kilometers, and probably a lot of people listening aren't even equipped to do the surfing portion. But it seems to me like everybody might benefit from a 3-month slow journey of some sort. Can you speak to the benefits of that? And also, is it something that you think that you could do regularly, yearly, something in your life?
Yeah. I think the benefits speak pretty loudly for themselves. Like we live in such a fast-paced society, and like I feel like our baseline for like how a lot of us just live our normal lives is pretty fast moving. So when you create space over like multiple months to slow down, I don't know, it completely switches the lens in which you like view the world and yourself and the spaces that you're moving through, and like having time for people as well, like just being able to sit and chat and talk to someone for an hour because you've got the time and you're not rushing around like a headless chicken. Um, Man, there were so many benefits. It completely transformed me as a person, you know, like when you look at yourself before a trip and then after, like it just, yeah, completely transformed me in such like beautiful ways. And I feel like, yeah, like a yearly trip like that would be amazing. So if I can figure out how to do it with work, like I think if people have flexibility and like the ability to take that time off, then 100% it's the best thing. Like it's such a beautiful way to really experience like a place deeply. And yeah, like I said earlier, not just like, oh, like checking a swell like online and just flying somewhere for like a week and then like flying home, and you're like, yeah, you got like the waves of your life, but you didn't actually like experience like the culture or the place very deeply as well. You know, it's just a different way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned you were transformed by the trip. How is your life different now? How have you changed your lifestyle after the
Yeah.
trip?
I've always had a pretty, like, I prioritize a pretty slow lifestyle where I can, but I think just trusting in my own capabilities more as well. Like when you get to an end of a trip like that and you're like, oh, that was actually really doable. Whereas like at the start of that, perhaps it might have seemed a little bit like overwhelming or like, can I do it? And now I'm like, oh, 100%. I'm pretty capable of doing big things if I really want to. So yeah.
Do you still have the bike?
Yeah, I do actually. It's sitting outside my house. I haven't used it in a few months, but it's still there.
Do you still Well, that should have been the question. Are you still riding the bike?
When I came back, I was still riding it heaps. But then I tore my calf like twice last year and was out of action for like 7 months. So I haven't got back in my bike fitness era, but I'm sure I'll get back there.
How'd you tear your calf?
Trail running.
Oh,
yeah,
geez.
Running. That old
Brutal.
chestnut.
Yeah, dangerous. Yeah. So the way that you would be able to do another trip like this is pitch a new concept.
Another wild, crazy movie idea.
Obviously we'll see what the success of this film is, but do you have any additional travel plans or film concepts in the works?
In terms of travel plans, not at the moment. I'm actually really excited just to ground and go slow, get in the garden over the next few months and just enjoy winter here. It's such a nice time of year. Movie concepts, I've got a million ideas always filing through my mind. So watch this space.
Okay. I'll look forward to it. Just out of curiosity, a question that I ask a lot of people, what's the best surfing that you've ever witnessed?
Oh, good question. Let me sit on this for a second.
Yeah, think about it.
Actually, do you know what? I was just talking to a friend about this the other day, and I was sitting down at Back Beach and Yamba and Gary, and Bryce Young was out on a glider and Ryan Birch, and I was sitting there with one of their friends, and this was years ago, and there was a full moon rising right behind them, and they were just on this, it was like knee high on this little left, and they were both just going wave for wave, and just watching those two like dance and surf the way they do on gliders, it was just like mesmerizing. Like we just sat there in silence and just watched it unfold. So that's the first one that comes to mind. Tiny little knee-high lefts.
That's a great call. Yeah. Was that footage, was that documented?
No.
Because there's a couple of clips that sound similar in his film. I forget what his film was called.
Following the Fall Line.
But it's him and...
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And it's he and Birch riding those on small waves. So that's what...
Yeah. So just that and a full moon rising in the background. It was pretty dreamy.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. Great call. Final question is, what was the last surfboard that you rode?
Oh, I rode my good friend Angie. She left her Campbell Brothers Bonza here, and I've never ridden one of those, and it's a 7.2, and I took that out for my first surf back after a month of being sick, and it felt amazing. So there's a whole other little adventure I get to experiment with here. So yeah.
I've never ridden one either. Is it the 3-fin Bonza or the 5-fin?
3-fin one. Yeah, it felt amazing. I only caught a couple of little waves, but I went, ooh, there's something here. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I've heard great things.
No, I look forward to riding it on a good day out there.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, congrats on the film's release.
Thank you.
I'm on the jury for the Florida Surf Film
fantastic.
Festival.
Yeah.
And they just showcased it a few weeks ago, about a month ago, I think.
Yeah, no, I was going to come over for it, but I couldn't quite get over there with work and stuff. So I'm stoked it got to be played, and it sounded like an amazing, and apparently it was all sold out for all the films. So
yeah, they do a phenomenal job organizing the event, and the venue that they do it in is actually it's an artist retreat. And so it's this incredible, like the architecture and the layout of the land and the buildings and everything is really, really cool. But the point is they have a professional, film theater, basically, to showcase it in with the proper sound system and all that sort of thing. So it's the perfect environment.
It makes such a big difference, doesn't it? So yeah, we were so stoked to have it showing over there. It's awesome.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Well, thank you for taking the time to do this.
Congratulations
on the release. And also, enjoy the next week or two of feedback as it comes in and
Yeah.
all of it.
Thank you so much for having me, and we're super excited to have the movie out in the world. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. You should be
Thank
proud.
you.
All right. You're
Thanks,
welcome.
Jay. Surf Splendor.